Word. All righty. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us on this morning, the first training and workshop of 2023. And I would like to welcome everybody to 2023. Hope everybody had a great holiday, hopefully a restful holiday as well. I know everybody does a lot of great work, and a lot of times we may forget to just to woosah for a minute. So I hope everybody had an opportunity to woosah during the break. But thank you all so much for joining us. And as mentioned in December, we said that Siobhan would do her last facilitating in January, but that's at the next one, which will be in a couple of weeks, for creating a safe environment for our LGBTQ plus young people that we work with and creating safe environments for them. And she has a colleague and who has taken the decision to come and deal with us on this morning and for the rest of our trainings. We have Miss Renee Abdullah, who will be our facilitator now, and you all will be in great hands. She is awesome. I got a chance to meet with her yesterday. Wonderful personality. I'm excited for her, for you all to meet her on this morning. As always, in Youth Success Network, Fashion, please, if you would, put your name and the organization that you're representing in the chat, please. For attendance purposes, put the name and the organization that you are representing on today within the chat. You should have received the materials from the reminder this morning. If not, we can share those again within the chat, but just making sure that you have the materials and you are prepared for today. And just to make sure that you are in the right room, this is facilitating problem solving with young people. So just making sure everybody's in the right workshop. Again, thank you all so much for joining us, and I will not prolong our time. I will go ahead and hand it over to Ms. Renee Abdullah. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you, Antonio, and good morning to everyone. Like you said, my name is Renee. I am happy to be here with you all this morning. Let me just put it up front, I am a WebEx and Teams person. So if you see me fumble on Zoom this morning, it is because Zoom is not my friend, but we are going to be besties by the end of all of this. So another note, I'm not necessarily monitoring the chat. So if anytime you have any questions, come on off of mute and we can have an open discussion. It's not extremely formal, very informal. We're going to talk back and forth, but we'll get into that. But again, my name is Renee. I have been in youth development for over 12 years now. I come to you from the Washington, D.C. area, and I monitor quality programming around here, been involved with YCART for the past 5 or 6 years. So if you had any of the previous workshops, I do that along with the youth work methods. I go and do program assessments as well. So I just want to, I'm gonna open the chat for a second just so I can see who is on the call with me this morning. And let me go up. This chat is popping this morning. Okay. We have from Whitney is from St. George's Scholar Institute, Dina from Backside Learning Center, Americana Learning Community Center, Nemo, Michelle, coming from the Jefferson County Regional Interagency Council, Nancy from Lighthouse Academy, Dalia, and please correct me if I am not saying your name right, Dalia or Dalia, Backside Learning Center, Walter from St. George's Scholar Institute, Charles from St. George's Scholar Institute, Bois, and Boy, please correct me if I am wrong, and representing the Americana Community Center, Michaela from Backside Learning Center, and Kat from Neighborhood House. So, okay, so it sounds like we have people from across all organizations, and it is nice to virtually meet you. So before we get started and before we get into too much, I always like to start with an icebreaker. And I would like to ask that either you can use your phones. If you're on a computer, it's easier to use your phone to do this, Or if you're on the computer, you can just open up another tab and participate that way. But the questions will be up on my screen, allegedly, if this whole Zoom works for me. But we are going to do a Kahoot this morning just to kind of break the ice, just to kind of get us all flowing before we jump into the content. So I am going to pull it up on my screen, and I think I'm going to share it with you all. Let's see. In 1 second. Here we go. Can you share? If you all can go to kahoot.it on your phone, so KAHOOT.it on your phone or your computer, and then you don't have to sign in or sign up or anything. Just go ahead and put this PIN number in that I'm going to give you. All right. I hope you can see the pin. Can you see the pin, Kathy? Oh, I can see your face for a second. Antonio, can you give me a head nod if you can see the pin? Okay. Thank you, thank you. So the pin 8674769. You do not have to participate this way. You can also just put your answers in the chat, but it'll just be a classic game of Would You Rather. So again, if you do not want to sign in this way, you can just participate through the chat. I know technology is not always our friend. All right, okay. I'm gonna get started. All right, would you rather be Batman or Spider-Man? Who are we with? Are we with Marvel or DC? Spidey wins. The Marvel wins. I personally am a DC fan because I can follow those movies so much easier. Like Marvel, you have to know the 27 movies that came before it and how they're interconnected, and it's a lot. I mean, Spider-Man's cool, but it's too much. Let's go to question number 2. Would you not be able to stop dancing or not stop singing? Okay, so we have some singers. I'm gonna sing with you. I don't know if you all can hear the music because I was dancing, I was grooving. So if you can't hear the music, I just look like I'm dancing to nothing. But if you can hear my computer audio, this site has music to it. So I'm not just randomly dancing for you all. All right, would you rather be able to talk with animals or speak all foreign languages? All foreign languages. We have a couple people that said they want to speak to the animals. You know what? I'm actually going to speak to the animals because I feel like they have They have been places we have not been. They have been all over the place, heard some stuff, and I would not mind speaking to the animals, but speaking all foreign languages, of course, would be a super bonus. All right. You gonna go stuck on a broken ski lift or stuck in an elevator? You taking your chances with the heights or the claustrophobia? Which one? Broken ski lift. We're going 20 degrees and the edge is dangling. I think I would go with, I don't know. I don't like being cold, the elevator. I'm gonna go with the elevator and just hope help is on the way. And it's only one other person or something in there with me. Last one. Are you taking your chances with the bear or the beehive? How are you gonna get your honey? It's only one way. All right. They said they're gonna take their chances with the beehive. Nobody is messing with Yogi Bear. A couple people say they're gonna take a chance with Yogi. I don't know. Maybe the bear, if you run zigzag or say raw, it goes away. And I know there's some kind of technique they said that you could survive the bear, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I just no honey for me. All right. Now we're gonna get really fancy and switch back to the PowerPoint. All right, let's see. We're gonna stop sharing here. Did it work? Antonio, can I get a head nod if it worked? Yay. Thank you. So I just like to start with the icebreaker and get to know who is on the call, of course, in the beginning. So now that we have all broken the ice, we're going to go ahead and just jump into the content. I know we are together for only a couple hours and those hours will fly by, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to jump into how to facilitate problem solving with youth and what is the youth role? What are the roles of the staff when it comes to problem solving? So it really looks at this content right here, preparing youth and children to thrive, cognitive development and social emotional learning. So this is a free resource. If you see right there, selpractices.org, where they looked at 8 exemplary OST programs that were having that next level SEL exemplary examples within their program. So they went and they researched these 8 programs and they pulled out their best practices. With this particular presentation, we are going to go ahead and focus on that problem solving aspect. If you have taken any courses with the fabulous Siobhan before, you have probably seen this pyramid. Is there anyone on here that would like to come off of mute and say, yes, I am familiar with this pyramid and this is what I know about it? Anyone brave soul this morning?
Really? Yes, complete. She's like, when you fussing at him and discipline him about what's.
All right, we're gonna jump into it. I don't know if Christina was trying to talk to us, but so this is the social emotional learning pyramid of program quality. So if you are familiar at all with those youth work methods, where we start at the base of the pyramid and work our way up to say, this is what needs to exist in programming, the safe space and the supportive environment. These are the different work methods we need to include to have a successful program. This looks at the social emotional side of things. So this is the next level. So on that very base, before we can have any kind of youth participation, before we can have any kind of youth connection, we have to make sure that we create that safe space. which is why it's at the very base of that pyramid. So after we create that safe space and you feel like they belong, they're there, okay, I feel safe here, now we can look into that supportive environment. So within that supportive environment, that comes that emotion coaching and youth learning, that scaffolding learning. So taking it within two layers and also fostering that growth mindset. So once they're in that safe space, now they feel like they have that supportive environment there for them to build upon that space. So now that I'm here, I'm safe, and I'm supported, now I feel like I can move into that next level, which is that interaction, that interactive environment. So within that interactive environment, that is that fostering that teamwork, making sure that youth are working together in groups, having those interdependent roles within the groups to really come and solve problems. Give me 1 second, please. So being able to really process what those problems are, coming here, working towards a common goal when we foster that teamwork. We are also having youth promote that responsibility and leadership. So giving the youth that autonomy to really lead and take on that leadership role and have that peer-to-peer mentorship as well. So helping other youth achieve goals with each other. And then also, of course, cultivating that empathy with our youth. And so once we have that safe space and that supportive environment, that now they're interacting with us, now we're ready to move into that engaging environment with our youth. So supporting their plans and goals, understanding what those youth interests are. So having that youth voice in programming, that planning, that reflection, that constant plan, do, assess, where youth are all the way involved in it. And then you're furthering learning by that. So youth are having something that they're trying to achieve. They come up with the steps to achieve it, and then they're assessing on what was successful, what can I change in the future to do this? So that's that furthering learning piece. It's not letting me advance. There we go. So when it comes to the social emotional learning method sequence, we are now in that next phase, which is that problem solving phase. So you started with that essentials, and then we're building upon that first tier here. So here we are going to focus, like I said, on how to facilitate problem solving with youth. When there's an issue that needs to be resolved, where do we even start? What are the components? What are the youth role? What is our role in it? So this is going to be our first breakout that we do, and it's called the Web of Connections. I am going to give you all a few minutes before you go into your groups to think for a minute. And I want you to come up with three words that describe you, or very short phrases, but mostly words, just 3 words that describe you. I am going to put you into breakout groups. Once you get into your breakout group, I want you all to discuss with each other and see how you can draw some kind of connections through the words that describe who you are. So example, I don't like the examples they use on here, but we're going to use one. The apples and the oranges. So I like apples, and let's say Christina likes oranges. So we get in there and we say, you know what? Our connection is that we both like fruit, or apples and a basket. Okay, both are part of a fruit basket. So we would all use those components to make up a basket. So just really start deep thinking about how these connections can be made, because we don't know what kind of words are going to be there or how we can make those connections. But the point is to go there and try to figure out how you can make connections between the words that you all put down. I am going to give you all, it's 10:26. I'm going to give you to 10:28. And then at that point, you will be put into a breakout group. I just ask that you identify one person in your group that can come back and just talk about what you all discussed. So before we go, do we have any questions? All right, get your 2 minutes and then you'll be in your rooms. All right, it is 10:28, so I am going to go ahead and put you in your breakout rooms now. Walter, I did get your direct message, and thank you for letting me know and giving me the heads up. That is fine. It's going to put you in there automatically, but don't worry about, just go ahead and exit it and come back to the main room. So with that, I'm going to put you all in your rooms and go ahead and make your connections. You will have 8 minutes. See you soon. Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had some good discussions going on. Let's just go around and see what everyone talked about in there, what kind of connections were made. So let's go to room 1. That was Catherine, Dahlia, Dina, and Michelle.
Did you just want us to like list the words?
So yeah, just tell me about some maybe a connection that you made within there, and then we're going to debrief on some other parts of it. But were you all able to make any connections between your words?
Yeah, I mean, they might be kind of like a stretch, but
Okay.
somebody had mentioned that they were future oriented, and then the other one said that they were goal oriented. So then we said that they are both planning for better selves. And then they have goals that you have to break into steps, and then you have to visualize the actions. So that's kind of how we used it as far as the phrase. I'm not sure if we're doing that right.
You are on the right track. Okay. Yep.
And then somebody else had mentioned that they were kind, and then someone had mentioned that they're an empath. So then we kind of did a stretch from that you have to be open-minded to have those traits.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. Let me bounce to room 2. And I know room 2 only ended up having 2 people in there, Tashana and Boy.
Yes, ma'am.
I said your name right, correct?
Correct.
All right, go ahead, Boy.
So I said I was positive, outgoing, and artsy, while Miss Tashana said she was studious, silly, and confident. So we made connections with positive and confident, with and then outgoing and silly, and then artsy and studious, like in the school type of way, like textbook studying, artsy type of way. That's the connections we made.
Thank you so much, Boy. And let me just jump to room 3. Michaela, Nemo, and Whitney.
And I was in that one as well.
Oh, and Antonia. Okay, I knew it was in the 4th.
So we got Nemo, said she's calm, happy, friendly. I said I was a little artsy, family oriented, and hardworking. Whitney says she's determined, disciplined, and dependable. And Michaela says she's enthusiastic, sweet, and at times disappointed. And so our words we have are happy, family, determined, and hardworking. So we combine calm and artsy to come up with therapeutic. And then we have enthusiastic family as well.
Thank you, Antonio. So let me just ask some follow-up questions on the activity that you all just did. Do you think it is easier to remember something about someone if it is connected to you in some way? So once you made those connections, is it easier to remember something about whoever that person was by making that connection? So yes, I see the head nods, and I see the head nods behind the blank screens too. It's okay, I know they're there. So the whole point is really to say, okay, making these connections make me feel a little bit more connected to the person. And now that we are connected, we are on one mindset to solve whatever problem this is. So helping you to really make those connections with one another, where person A and person B, we are nothing alike. Promise you we're nothing alike. But then there is some kind of interconnected way that you are able to connect person A with person B so they are able to understand each other a little bit more. So another question I wanted to ask, what is some other ways that we can come together to make larger connections? So based off of just the small activity you did, you had those, you had a few minutes to kind of make those small connections. Do you think there's a way or an activity that you could do with youth that would help you to make those bigger connections with the youth, or help you to understand what those connections mean?
I'd say, yeah, probably just like those like icebreakers, or some way to get them to get to know each other. And also, I guess, creating a safe environment so that they feel, okay to speak out, and get to, get to share about themselves within the space.
Absolutely. It's all about, first, of course, creating that safe environment. We need it as for youth, and we need it for adults too. If we were to come together today and I said, and I'm only picking on these people because they're the only ones I can see on my screen. Okay, me and Michelle and Boy, we got to solve this problem right now. We got to solve it by tomorrow. I don't even know you all. Like, I don't feel comfortable sharing. I don't know who's going to lead. Because I don't know your learning style. I don't know the way you function. We need to make connections first. So like you said, Antonio, creating that safe environment, those icebreakers, we need to come together first, because I can't jump to the top of the pyramid where I'm trying to solve an issue, or where I'm trying to have those group processing skills and all of that, because I'm not even in that safe environment yet. We haven't even seen each other face to face before. And you want me to come in and just all of a sudden work together with them? No, I need to build upon that. So that's what that is. Absolutely. So we are going to move it along. I'm telling it to me. All right. So these are our learning objectives today. Just understand the very basics of how and where learning and problem solving occur in the brain. So we're going to touch on that very lightly, but that's going to lead us into really the meat of the learning today, which is to identify problem solving components and strategies. So understanding what all those components are and how to relate that back to what you do daily with youth, whether you are in direct contact with youth, or if you're working with programs that are with indirect contact. So even if you have indirect contact with youth, some of these problem solving skills are something that you should be able to take back and apply. Applying the deal method of problem solving, we will go into that later. And then also practice supporting youth problem solving in the moment through guiding questions. So there are two times that we can facilitate that group problem solving. It could be in the moment, or it could be something that's planned out as far as problem solving. So we are going to touch on all of that today. This is just our agenda. We did that welcome to setting the stage. What we're going to go into now are the central ideas and practice about what problem solving is. We'll do that application piece. We'll do one more breakout session and to do that role playing, and then we'll do implementation. And we said on the previous slide, we talked about deal. It's just how the order in which you problem solve, and we'll go into that later. And then, as always, we will do a closing and a reflection to close out the day. Housekeeping. Please take care of your needs. I know there are all kinds of competing fires in the background and everything else. I say, if you need to get up at any moment, just go ahead, get up, do what you need to do. But I ask that you do come right back because your engagement is going to really drive this presentation today. There are some components where we just kind of build off of the engagement there. I can tell you what's going on in DC, but I do not know too much of what's going on in Kentucky. So I want to really build those connections, see what you all are doing. I can tell you what we're doing here. And if you have any questions at any time, please go ahead and raise your hand. And you can pop it into the chat as well, but raise your hand just in case I'm not looking directly at the chat. The other part is materials. You should have received today with your meeting link to join. It was also some materials for this. So it'll have this PowerPoint presentation, these slides, but it'll also have a participant workbook. I just ask that you keep that participant workbook file handy because we will refer to it from time to time throughout this presentation. And it is also a great resource to walk away with. All right. So here are our group agreements. I'm gonna go through them really quick so we can get into the good stuff. Learning is social, so we will be learning from one another as a community. We just touched on that DC, Kentucky connection. Learning is emotional. Know that we honor the emotions that we bring into the space as we engage in learning. A lot of us are very passionate about what we do. We're passionate about our youth, so just understand that learning is emotional and it's okay. Learning is cognitive. So we want to focus our attention and fully engage our minds. And we also recognize that in varying ways, life experiences, it could be geography, it could be biases, racism, cultural backgrounds, age, gender, whatever, can affect our learning experiences today. So just understand that different experiences and everything else can affect the learning experience. So that is why it is so important to share these best practices and for these professional learning communities to come together, such as today. If you think we need to add anything, go ahead and throw that in the chat. And thank you, Antonio, again, for sharing the links to the materials. If you need any other technical support, go ahead and just send something directly to Antonio, because like I said, I cannot technically support anything. I can't even technically support myself on Zoom. So we're gonna move on with that. So what is problem solving exactly? And let me get this out of my way. So problem solving is just that ability to plan, strategize, and implement complex tasks. So trying to really reach our goal. And we want to make sure that our youth have some key experiences when it comes to that problem solving. The easiest thing for us to do is that when there's an issue that needs to be solved, we can just tell them what to do and then move on, and everything is over in 5 or 10 minutes. However, we want to make sure that we are building these skills within our youth to be able to solve their own problems, whether it's something small or whether it is something complex. So some of the experiences that we want our youth to walk away with are how to set goals and really making sure that youth engage in this. So setting goals, whether it's the long-term goals, of course, but we will also want them to make short-term goals so that they can also reach their accomplishments along the way. So if I just give them a long-term goal, in 3 months, we're going to do this. Well, I can't celebrate any of your accomplishments. I can't say we're on the right track if that's the only goal we have. We need to make sure that they set goals along the way. I want to make sure that I implement this program or implement something within a club within my program in the next 3 months. Well, along the way, we have these other goals that we need to set out. And what are those goals? Are we achieving those goals? And that way we know whether or not we are on the right track. Next, we want the planning action cycles. So that's just really the central idea of this whole workshop. So making sure that they are going through that strategic planning, that execution, responding to those problems, the trial and error, just that constant cycle of plan, assess, do. I'm planning, I do it, and I'm assessing what happens. So that's the main thing that we want them to focus on. And then also understanding that outcomes verify skills. So you can reflect on their outcomes of the work that they provided, and it really helps to build their skills. Walk away with saying, I now have this skill that I didn't have before this started. So, but of course, we want them to mainly focus on that planning, assessing, and constantly doing, knowing that you're not going to necessarily come out 100% the first time, but you need to have the ability to really go back and look and see what needs to be fixed, what was successful, and what was not successful. All right. So we have the brain. And we are constantly looking at the brain, we're studying the brain to see what exactly is going on up there. And when we talk about problem solving in the brain, the front of the brain is what really drives our problem solving. That back of the brain is where all of those physical health and fitness stuff is. So that coordination, that vision, that movement, that's in the back of our brain. But in the front of the brain is what we use to problem solve. So as we are teaching you these problem solving skills, we are constantly growing that part of the brain for our youth, because we know that the brain is not fully developed until the mid-20s. So they have a lot of growing to do there. So we want to make sure that we give them these problem solving skills to constantly grow that part of the brain and constantly grow skills when it comes to that. So problem solving, that logic, that planning and prioritizing, that impulse control, all of that is going on in the front of the brain. And when we go here are some things that can help to, stop it, there we go. Here are some things that can really help to grow that function in the brain. So when we talk about problem solving, we want to talk about problem solving activities that's going to drive those learning activities. So action plus reflection is equal to learning. So some things that you can do when it comes to action for problem solving, that is I am getting tongue-tied this morning. Contributions that you can make to the team. So that's an actionable thing. So with youth, they can contribute in some way. How do I contribute to solving this issue? How do I contribute to getting this project done? The other thing is constant practice. So constant hands-on practice. So that active learning, that comes with our youth work methods, understanding what active learning is. So I'm not just standing in front of you and talking to you and telling you what to do. You're putting it into practice. Having that choice between things. So really giving authentic choice to you, allowing them to tinker. And that's another component of that active learning, that really hands-on. Now that you learned it, I need you to go back and implement and just see if that works. You said this might work. Go ahead and see if that works. When it comes to lighting the light bulb, you give them different components. I'm gonna give you the light bulb, I'm gonna give you a battery, I'm gonna give you some wires. Make the light bulb work. And so that's just that tinker piece where, okay, I think it would make sense that if I connect this wire to the light bulb and this wire to this part of the battery, it should come on. But it's really through that trial and error. And the last part is just that encounter piece as well. So once we talk about the actionable items, we want to make sure that we reflect upon our actions, because it's easy to constantly keep doing, but if we're not reflecting, then it's moot. So when we talk about reflection, some different ways that we can reflect to contribute to that learning environment is to describe what happened. Describe what exactly we were looking for and what actually came out of it. How do we evaluate our process? What are we doing to understand what went right, what went wrong, what I can do differently next time, and also drawing those connections. The other part is to really envision, okay, now that I know this works and this works, I can envision this the next time we go to do that project again, or the next time I'm trying to solve that issue again, I kind of have that forward thinking going on. And then the other part is to really integrate. So integrate what I know and what I don't know, but based on what I know, making that hypothesis making an informed hypothesis based on what I know and my reflection. There we go. So I'm gonna try to advance. It doesn't like me. Okay, so I want to talk about, just briefly with you all, what activities, when we talk about problem solving, when it comes to the actionable activities and the reflective activities, I want to know what activities really best help you, and what activities are you doing in programming with youth. So the way I'm going to do this, we're going to do another interactive piece. I'm trying to stay fancy here and flip between screens. This next one we are going to use, give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to mute somebody. Oh, here we go. Oops. Okay, there we go. So this next resource we are going to use is called Slido. I don't know if you all are familiar with it, but Slido is another free resource. So I only share free resources here. The first one we used was Kahoot. The second one is Slido. I will put a link into the chat and it'll have the same question that is on the slide right now. So let me go ahead and bring that up. All right, so I'm going to put a link into the chat in about 2 minutes because I want to give you all some time to brainstorm a little bit. But I want to know what strategies, actionable or reflection work for you when it comes to problem solving. And the other component is, what are some actionable or reflective activities that you all currently have in programming with youth? We want to make sure that, you know, we are constantly learning from one another. And since you all are across different organizations, it is great to continue this as a best practices. So go ahead and take those 2 minutes. At 11:59, I am going to share the link in the chat. All right. I just shared that first link in the chat. So I want to know what strategies work for you. So that first one that you will come up on will be a Slido word cloud. So once you click, go ahead and answer that question, and you should be able to see the other answers that are going into there as well. No need to write your names. After you finish that first one, go ahead and do the second one. And that second one talks about activities that occur in your programming. So what are some activities, those actionable or reflective activities that are currently occurring in your programming? This will be a different Slido. This will be a Slido open text. So the first one, you'll see the word cloud where the words kind of pop up all over the place. The second one that we're using is going to be an open text where it'll just have the answers come up. Just a little side note on this, if you all have not used Slido before, which is why I use 2 different ones, so you can kind of see the different things that Slido offers. You can make it anonymous, which I did, which is great when you're trying to get input from youth, because sometimes youth are not as forthcoming, especially at the end, if you're doing a reflection and you say, hey, does anyone have questions? Not everyone is going to raise their hand and say, hey, I do have a question. Doing something like a Slido like this, or some way to make it anonymous so that they feel a little bit more comfortable coming forward. I am going to go up to our first one. All right. So as far as activities that best help you, one person said doing visual representations of how to resolve and present a conflict. So a very visual person. Okay. Integrate. Another person said to choose. Systems thinking. Icebreakers and interactive activities. Take time to process. I'm going to be able to say words. Take time to process information and write it out. So I am I'm a combo. I'm a visual person. I'm definitely a write it out person. I have to have it written. I need to see it, but I also need like color coded pens in my notebook, my handy dandy notebook, like I'm Dora the Explorer. Like I can't function without it. So I am definitely a write it out person as well. Anybody who gave an answer there, if you all can give us some, just some more behind it. So such as systems thinking. Who says systems thinking? You can explain that a little bit to us.
Yeah, that was me. Okay. I put systems thinking because it gives me like big picture thinking. So seeing how things kind of lead into problems and then kind of like the downstream of problems as well. I'm trying to see it as a whole.
Okay. Thank you, Antonio. I know I had a few more come in. The person who said to integrate. I know I'm putting people on the spot now. Sorry. My integrate person. Who said that?
I said that it was going hand in hand with the choose. I also put that. But basically choosing a concept and allowing us to integrate it, or allowing me to integrate it in my own life, or just seeing how it applies. I don't know, real world examples really help me understand.
Thank you so much, Dina. I am going to go to the other one. If you haven't had a chance to click on that second link yet to talk about activities in your programming, go ahead and do that now if you would like. But I am going to see what is in here. So activities that occur in programming for problem solving, they talk about physical practice / demonstration, so modeling for the youth, check-ins, small groups, reflections, and team debriefs. Can someone, whoever said team debriefs, can we get a little bit more info on that?
Yeah, that was me again. So
I don't know why I keep picking on you.
So yeah, when I was at the Boys and Girls Club, we would debrief about how things were going and how things went, and kind of did some team reflection and kind of tied into the Weichert work, with the program improvement plans and the things that we have to do for that. So coming together as a team and trying to see how we could problem solve and make things better for the program.
Okay. Were youth ever involved in any of the debriefs?
So no, so that typically happened like during the day, before the youth got there.
Okay. No. And then one other person, my physical practice / demonstrations person.
That was me. If we are working on a task, because we have kiddos that may learn at different levels, it's easier, I should say, for the kiddos that we're engaging in to do it as well as like you're visually showing them. So if you're like teaching something as far as like a skill set, or I'm just going to use like, I don't know, like how to do a budget, and just use something generic. But then like physically having them write out like their, make-believe budget for, this purpose, as well as like visually being able to see it on a screen. So not only are they hearing it, but they're physically doing it. So then it becomes like a muscle memory, and then they're like showing what it is that we're doing. So then that kind of gives you an assessment of what they may or may not be able to process from what it is that you're trying to teach, so that you can kind of get some feedback without having to call them out on it. And then you can kind of identify maybe who needs more supports, kind of like on a sidebar.
Thank you, Michelle. So kind of like that teach back method. I'm teaching you and you're gonna do and show me, teach back to me what you know, which is a very effective way of learning. Just from our personal experience, my son this year, he is in an online academy. Like, so out of the pandemic, our school system came up with an online academy for youth who thrived in the virtual environment. And that is very much the model they use. They're like, we're not teaching you all day, all night. We're coming here, we're giving you the information. And then I need you all to go away, process it, and tell me what you all know. And just by their feedback or what they do, then you can really understand what the different levels of understanding are. So I feel like that is a very effective method, especially when it comes to problem solving. So thank you all. I appreciate all of you all's input. Even after I put you all on the spot, you didn't pretend you couldn't come off of mute or anything. You just talked to me. Thank you. We are going to keep moving along. So now we're going to talk about what are some of the problem solving strategies that we can use. And we kind of touched on it a little bit through the feedback and through some of the prior discussion. One way is working backwards. And Antonio kind of touched on that where he said he really likes to have that, you know, big picture first and kind of dwindle down from there. And that's what really working backwards is. It's like I'm starting here and I'm trying to kind of step my way back to actually solve the crux of the problem. Creating a model. So modeling for youth, what can be done in a similar scenario or how we can problem solve in a similar scenario so they can take kind of that blueprint and apply it to whatever problem solving technique they're doing. Discussion, just talking it through out loud. Like, let's just brainstorm, let's sit here, let's just have an open discussion to kind of dwindle down on how we can solve this problem. Another strategy is to simplify it. Start with a similar but less complex problem. So sometimes the problem can be so big that it can be overwhelming, or the goal can be so big that it can be overwhelming. So we want to make sure that we don't overwhelm our youth or we don't give up before we even get started. We know that even as adults, and we have something that is just way too much, I will procrastinate all the way until the end because it's like, look, I can't even start to process that right now because it's just so huge. But if we simplify it a little bit and say, okay, we're going to start with something smaller so that we can kind of build upon that, then it makes it a little bit more easier. Grouping. Can I classify this into groups and make it easier to remember? So those grouping strategies, kind of like mapping it out, that the people who are visual, being able to say, okay, let me visualize what I'm doing, drawing the problem. I'm grouping this out here, and now I'm visualizing it a little bit better. So it's not just one big, huge thing that I'm trying to do. And also relying on resources, working smarter and not harder. Our youth are surrounded with resources. Let them know that we are a resource. Also making sure that they lean on one another as a resource. So that peer-to-peer resource. I'm strong in this component, you're strong in that component. So we need to bring our resources together to really come and solve this problem. So after we have those problem solving, we said we have those strategies, we always want to make sure we do a reflection. And that's not just a reflection at the end, but that constant reflection throughout. So we want to make sure along the way, we are reviewing our progress. Did that work? Yes or no? Because I don't want to just keep doing something that doesn't work. I need to make sure I do constant check-ins. We want to make sure that we learn from our successes and challenges as well. So everything is not going to be a success off the bat, but making sure that we are learning from our challenges and not just dwelling on the challenges that we have or the setbacks that we have. And also, I look back on the thinking process. So this is really about understanding ourselves, that thinking about thinking, how do we process? How do we think? How do we achieve our goals? And shifting that, sometimes we need to shift that attention, right? Sometimes we can get stuck so much on one thing that we are just stuck in this one place and we cannot accomplish anything. So really shifting that attention from one thing to another to say, okay, let me just step back from this for a minute and focus on this other piece. And then eventually we will work our way back into this, but we don't want to get so bogged down on this one thing that we can't accomplish the rest of our goals. And understanding that there are some important benefits from reflection. Reflection really tells you what works and what doesn't work. At the end of programming, a lot of times, well, for most of the time, we should be doing a reflection with our youth to understand what worked for them, what is their understanding. Because if we don't do this reflection, then we, at the end of the day, are walking away guessing or assuming that this worked, or they love this, or they understand this now. And it could be that they have no clue, or they just did the activity, but didn't walk away with what you wanted them to walk away with. So just understanding the important benefits of that reflection. So then we talk about staff practices. So first we talked about those youth components. How are the youth involved in everything? And if you want further information on this, or just so that you can see this at a later date, if you just refer to page 7 of that participant workbook, you can see all of this really broken down. So some of the staff practices that we want to have involved when it comes to making sure that youth thrive with this problem solving is to really provide that structure and opportunity. So providing those experiences for youth to really problem solve through project related skills. So that active learning, that hands-on learning, putting that high priority on having youth making choices. So we want to make sure that our youth are making authentic choices in programming or in problem solving, making sure that we are not coming through and saying, this is what it is, this is what you should do. And we want to make sure that we are also setting high expectations for our youth. So setting those goals, setting those timelines, but making sure that these goals and timelines are also attainable. We have to understand that we are a competing entity. They are in school all day. They come to our OST programs. They may have other sports going on, other extracurricular activities. So we are a competing entity. So if we know that we want to set a goal of solving a problem, make sure that we take into account that, you know, these 10 students only come 3 days a week and not 5 days a week, because the other 2 days a week they're off doing another extracurricular activity or at band practice or at football practice. So really making sure that you're taking all aspects into account when you all are setting goals together and when you're setting timelines, and making sure that they are attainable, they are challenging, but not too challenging. But we also want to make sure that they are challenging enough for the youth where they are constantly working to achieve it. When it comes to modeling, we create opportunities for youth to observe models of successful work. So it's just really just that, showing what needs to be done. So if we're showing them how to do something, if we want them to do some kind of science project in a classroom, I may model for them what it should look like, or a similar one, what it should look like. Scaffolding. This is often a little difficult to do because this is about helping youth when they need it and stepping back when they don't need you there. So I step in, I make sure youth know that they are supported along the way, but I don't want to become to a point where I become a crutch for the youth. So they know I'm here, they know I can support them, but I need them to challenge themselves first. But I also need to know when I do need to step in, because we don't want our youth to get stuck. We don't want our youth to get frustrated. We want to know that staff to youth is a true, authentic partnership where we are all trying to reach that same goal. So wherever you need me, I am here for you. But for the most part, I'm going to step back and I'm going to let you lead. And then, of course, that reflection piece. We keep talking about that reflection piece and how important it is, making sure that we are constantly reflecting with our youth, about our youth, but making sure it's always together. So we want to do some kind of reflection at the end. So we talked about, in the beginning, I mentioned that there were two different types problem solving methods that approaches we can use. So one is just that in the moment facilitation. This is something that was not planned at all, but we do have a problem we need to solve, or we do have a goal that we need to achieve. What can we do in this moment? And then there's that explicit focused instruction. So that's something that is planned out. So when we talk about that in the moment facilitation, we are asking those open-ended questions, something that is going to prompt that deep thinking. We are not asking a whole lot of closed-ended questions at all, because that's easy yes, no, we're never going to get anywhere. So we want to make sure that as we're facilitating, we are asking those open-ended questions. Also, we want to make sure that we allow youth to kind of just wrestle and struggle with the problem. Sometimes that radio silence is difficult in this virtual environment. You know, when you ask a question, it's like even 2 seconds is like, okay, let me say something. But we need to allow for that quiet time, that downtime, that when you ask a question, allow time to process before we're expecting an answer. So before you went into your breakout groups and I said, come up with 3 words to describe yourself, I could have easily said, all right, you're gonna go in your breakout rooms, come up with 3 words to describe yourself, and then find the connections. But I made sure that I allowed for those 2 to 3 minutes before you went into the breakout rooms to kind of like self-reflect, come up with those answers, so that when you do go into your breakout rooms, you're ready to solve that problem. You're ready to make those connections. You're ready to accomplish whatever goal that was put out there for you. So that is that allowing that break for just that time to process. It's okay for that silence to be over the room for a minute. It's uncomfortable sometimes because you feel like you need to fill that silence with words or something, but sometimes we just need to stop and allow that time to process and comment on what you observe. I wonder if, or what else can be done here? So I want to go into the deal now. So we talked about how we are going to talk about deal, and we are here now. And this is all about how you use deal to solve a problem. So deal stands for describe, explore, act, look back and learn. So this is that constant, set the plan, learn, do cycle that we've been talking about. So describe, we want to make sure that we are really breaking down the full problem. So we want to talk about the problem, the facts. What are some things we know? What are some things we don't know? What is the goal? What is the environment? What are we trying to achieve here? So when I say describe, it means a full breakdown of what the actual issue is and what goals we are trying to accomplish. Explore. So explore is just that brainstorming phase, that data collection phase. So strategies, feelings, reasons in order to create a plan. Like we're creating plans here. We are trying to figure out how we're going to all put this together. How are we going to achieve our goals? So explore is really tapping into whatever resources we may have, what alternatives there are to some goals that we may have. Okay, we may want to do it this way, but what's another pathway we can take? So just looking at the different paths. So after we figured out what the problem was, we figured out all these different pathways to solve the problem and all of that. Now we're ready to act on the plan. So based on our research, based on everything we've explored, I'm going to take the most actionable plan that makes sense. So I'm going to take this pathway because that makes the most sense to me. So that's that act. So after that, we are going to look back and learn. So we're going to describe the problem, we're going to explore the problem, we're going to act on the problem, and we're going to look back and learn. And of course, we may have to go back and deal it again because we may not have solved the problem the first time around because we said we have our successes and then we have those experiences that we can learn from as well. So I may, after I get to that L, I may need to jump back into E, AL, and go on down. Or I may need to go back into D in describing because I realized as I got to the end, there are some parts that I didn't describe, or there are some components to this problem that I didn't explore initially. So I might need to describe it a little bit more and then explore again. All right, so I want you all to refer to page 6 of your participant workbook. This is a little wrap. I can't take the credit for it, but this is a wrap that they came up with to see how to solve the questions and how to do problem solving. So you ask, what's the problem? What do you know? All of that. That's actually like a little poem or rap. Does anybody want to come off of mute and possibly perform for us? It's okay. It's okay. Some of my artists want to come off of mute and do a little performance. I can't perform, but you all can. Let's do it.
If nobody
Now
else
I'm
wants, I will.
Thank
I
you,
will.
because I'm over here dancing to no music now. I would have music before, but go ahead, Antonia.
All right, let's see. All right. What is the problem? What do you know? Why is it so? And where do you go? How was your thinking? And how did it flow? 5 basic questions, and now you know.
Somebody get this man a contract. Thank you. So, as much as it's for you, this was also written for you. So that is really something they can understand on how do I solve the problem. So you can have them, what is the problem? What do you inspire me, Antonio. Now I'm ready to collab with you. So it's just something that they can kind of say out loud so that as they're going through the problem solving in their head, or as they're going through the brainstorm or whatever, they're like, okay, what is the problem? What do I know? Why is it so? So it ends up being prompts. And by the end of it, you should be able to actually achieve whatever goal you're going towards, or have some kind of pathway to achieve that goal. So again, thank you, Antonio.
You're on mute.
And I must do this one time at every training. So that was your one time that I talked to you all on mute. But the rest of you all missed out on that fabulous performance. But if you do want to jump in at any time and feel inspired, go ahead. All right, we are going to keep it moving. All right. So this is common ways to start problem solving, things that come in the way of us solving our problems. So one thing that is easy to do is interrupting youth strategizing. So it's sometimes we know that something might not work, or we think we know that something might not work. So as we see youth strategizing and everything, it might be easy to say, hey, no, that's not gonna work. Like think of another way. But we want our youth to actually have that hands-on experience of having those successes and those failures to learn from. So interrupting youth strategy can really be a hindrance to problem solving for our youth. Manipulating the tools. A lot of times we can set up things in the way to make our youth kind of think along the way we want them to. But we want to make sure that is completely open, and we want them to create these tools, create these pathways themselves. Asking a series of closed-ended questions. This is a really easy way for our youth to shut down, or our youth not to be involved in any way in the problem solving. It's really easy to say yes, no, blue, white, yes, I think so. It's fine. And then what we end up doing is doing that problem solving for them by constantly asking those closed-ended questions, or we walk away saying, I just don't understand why I can't get them to participate. They are just not giving me any kind of information, and we need to step back and process and understand that sometimes it could be because we're asking the wrong questions. We need to ask those open-ended questions. We need to ask those questions that is going to really prompt and elicit those responses that we're looking for. Over scaffolding. I told you that scaffolding can be one of the harder components because we need to know exactly when to step in and when to step out. So if you do that over scaffolding, you're not letting youth get stuck. You're building in the occasional roadblocks, but you're not letting youth get stuck in one place. So here is a reflection question I want you all to hit on just for a little bit. What specifically can I remember to do or not do in the moment to facilitate problem solving? So I will let you all, I told you about letting that silence to process for a minute. So think about this reflection question. It's 11:27. I'm gonna get it to 11:29. And if one or two people can share out, that would be great. All right, we are back. It is 11:29. Is there anyone that would like to share out on this reflective question?
I think just starting simple, I would say to restrain myself from interrupting. I think
Thank you, Dina. And that's a challenge for me too. That is something that I constantly work on, is not interrupting or not jumping in there and just sitting back and listening.
for sure.
Thank you, Dina.
Hello.
Yes, Patrick, go ahead.
Mine was allow time to process. I'm always eager to jump in instead of just, allow time to process. And I struggle with that even with my own wife, because she allows time to process, and that's what I need to learn to do.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Patrick. That is a serious challenge, just to allow to process. And I think for me, it's challenging because as we go on, like the world is constantly like this. Da, 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 da. So whether you are working, whether you're on social media, whether you're watching TV, the world is going at 50 million miles an hour. So having a time when you just stop and say, I'm not touching anything, let me process this for a minute. It's much easier to just kind of jump in there and say, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. All right, I'm the same way. And that's why a lot of times when you all start talking, you'll see me putting myself on mute, because I always want to like jump in and say, yes, I agree, or even something like that. So allowing time to just sit back and process is a huge challenge. And I hope that you are able to work on that. So I'm glad that self-recognition is the first step. So anybody else, I do want to open it up if anybody else wanted to say anything before we move on. And that's okay. All right, let's keep moving. Yay, breakout rooms again. This is a role-playing scenario. So I'm asking you to go ahead and make sure that you have your participant workbook handy, and you are going to look on page 9. You will see some different scenarios there. There should be 3 people in your breakout groups. And on page 9, at the top, it'll give you instructions as to who should play which roles. It'll be 3 different roles: an observer, a staff member, a student. And you all will play out that scenario, take about 2 to 3 minutes at the most to play out that scenario, and then shift positions. So everyone should play that role at least one time. So everybody should be an observer at least one time. Everybody should be a staff member at least one time. So the skit or the scenario that you will do will correspond to your breakout room. So if you are breakout room number 1, you're going to do number 1 on the page. If you're breakout group number 2, then you're going to do number 2 on the page. And I am giving you all about 10 minutes in your rooms. And then we will come back and we will talk about what happened and examine what happened. And observers can tell us something that they observed or some way you learned from it. So before I put you into your breakout rooms, are there any questions? All right, I will see you all in 10 minutes. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you all had some good discussions and role playing in there. I am just going to ask for feedback from a couple of groups because I know we are coming close to time now. But I'm going to go to room number 1. Who had scenario 1? If you all could just read the scenario really quick and just let us know what you all discussed there.
I can go ahead and go. So scenario 1 was youth at Central High were very upset when a classmate was sent home for getting into a fight. 2 youth in the after-school club have angrily approached the principal in their school to advocate for instituting peer mediation. The idea was quickly shot down by the principal. The youth are upset and come back to the program angry and hurt. So I can speak on describing the problem was that obviously the 1 youth got into a fight, which in turn affected 2 other youths, because I'm assuming it was their friend. And as far as the feelings, they were angry and hurt. They also tried to approach the principal, but angrily. And the reason to create a plan was that when they approached the principal, he or she shot down the idea of instituting peer mediation. And then I'm gonna allow someone else in my group to talk about ACT and look back and learn.
I was also in that group. So on ACT, we're saying what the next steps and best options would be was to come up with a plan to like include the principal or to have more voices, maybe some staff who was on board that would help to kind of give them more of some buy-in from the principal with their process. And then on look back and learn, we thought they could go back and think being angry and approaching the principal in an angry manner was probably not the best way to do it. And that's probably why it got shut down quickly. So coming up with a more calm approach to the principal rather than being angry.
Thank you, Antonio. Anything else from group one before I pick one more group? All right, group three, or room number three, that was Boy, Kenya, and Christina.
Okay, so I
What-
can,
I would say Wade was the note taker.
oh, okay. Wade, do you want to speak or?
Can you introduce the act for us?
Sure. So our scenario was the playground at school typically has a lot of litter and trash on the premises. Youth in the after-school program are trying to figure out how they can improve the situation.
For what we talked about with the act, the goal was to bring youth together to participate and pick up litter in the playground. And there was also talks about bringing up the community about littering in general. And then for the feeling, strategy, and reason, we suggested to talk and go to like the administration at school to give supplies like such as gloves, bags, like trash bags, and the cloth things that you pick trash up with, and then to talk about the littering problem like in the playground. And then what we learned and the outcome was organization and the importance of working together and cooperating with each other.
Thank you so much. Was there anything else from group three before we move along? All right, thank you so much for your participation. We just wanted to give you a few scenarios that you can just kind of go through and practice with that deal model. We are going to move to the next slide now, and we talk about deal with it, and we have been dealing with it for quite a few slides now, so you all should be very familiar with this process. But on here, I just want to refer you to page 8 in your participant workbook, and it looks like this deal with a bunch of little squares under it. And it really helps to drive that deal process with your youth or even in a work scenario. So describe, it has different questions you can ask. What is your goal? What are the facts? What do you know about the situation? What is the problem objectively and who was involved? When it comes to exploring those strategies, the feelings, the reasons, and all of that, you can ask stuff like what feelings are involved? Would that be a good strategy? What other options are there? What caused the problem? And what important thing do you need to find out? When we move to the A, the act, those actionable items, the next steps, and the best options, that's when you take the next step. You want to implement that plan that you have, try out whatever you think the best option is, do what you can do about it now, and then try several different options. So that's all part of the act category. And then when we deal with that last part, that L part, that look back and listen reflection piece, what did you learn from it? What was the actual outcome? What was the thinking process behind it? How did that work out? And what could be done differently the next time? Or what can we do differently when we go back and plan, assess, and do all over again? So that is just another resource that I wanted you all, that I wanted to refer you all to. But we are coming towards the end now, and I just want to do a reflective piece, and you all can choose to reflect in one of two ways. Either you can do a come off of mute and do a share out, or you can choose to do a reflection through the chat and just go ahead and send it that way. If you're sending it through the chat, you can send it to the whole group to share, or you can send it directly to me. I will share with the group, but I know that if you send it to me, I know not to share your name. So there are actually 3 different ways. So you can do a private chat to me, a public chat for the reflective piece, or come off of mute. And I want you to pause for a minute and just think about your own thinking. How aware were you of your own thinking process, and what mode of thinking really helped or hindered your learning? And most importantly, what is your main takeaway today? So it is 11:52. I want to give you to 11:55 to reflect. So 3 minutes to do a self-reflection. Then we're going to do a 2-minute share out. And then I'm going to kick it back over to Antonio and get you out of here by 12. All right, welcome back. We are back one last time. Sad face emoji. Anybody want to share out, come off of mute and share out, or would you all rather go through the chat? However you choose to reflect, go ahead and either put it in the chat or answer those questions coming off of mute. Most importantly, what is your biggest takeaway today, or what is something that you walked away with today? Almost did it again. All right. Antonio said, for me, I need to remember to allow youth to be youth and to scaffold them through problem solving rather than assuming they should already know. Yes, our youth only know what they know, and we don't realize it sometimes because it's so second nature to us, and we've had all of these years of experience behind us, and we're like, you don't know that already? But youth only know what they know and what we teach them. So yes, just having that vision to step back and provide that scaffolding for them. Thank you, Antonio. If there is no one else that would like to share, I am going to kick it back over to you, Antonio, because I am done. Oh, thank you, Catherine. Yay. I've learned that I just need to slow down and process each step of decision-making and problem solving so that I can make the process visible to my kids. Thank you, Catherine. Yes, just slow down. We have another one coming in. If I can figure out how to, okay, there we go. Christina, I like the deal model and would like to share it with the staff that I work with. Feel free to share that deal wrap as well, you know, your choice. We currently use something similar, ABCDE. Ask what is the problem, brainstorm solutions, choose best solutions, do it, and evaluate. I like that. Also, the problem solving Diddy rap. See, I knew it was coming. I knew that rap was a big hit. Antonio, you have a future, friend. Also, the problem solving Diddy rap. It is catchy, and I think the youth could quickly learn it. Also, giving the youth time to process and give their input. Michelle says how to use my youth brain and not my adult brain when facilitating. I like that. Thank you all so much. Winky face emoji. Okay, I like this little thing because I've been watching The Circle. I don't know if you all have seen that on Netflix, but it is an awesome series where it's like this social media thing where they can only speak through chat. So I talk all my emojis, wiki face emoji, circle, open chat. Unless you watch the show, it's going to make no sense. But I know I have at least one person on here who knows what I'm talking about. Check them out. I am going to kick it over to Antonio. I believe that he just put an evaluation link in the chat, but I'm going to let you go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Renee. This was awesome. A lot of great information. Seems like a lot of people were able to identify with the deal strategy, and it was new for me. So this is something that I'll be able to take and also to share with a lot of our partners which are on the call. But thank you all so much. In the chat, I did put the survey in there. Please let us know what you thought about this and also your ideas for future sessions so that we can deliver the best and high quality and relevant trainings and workshops for you all. Our next one will be January 19th, which will be our last one with Ms. Siobhan Dotson, which is creating inclusive environments for LGBTQ plus youth and OST settings. So we would love for you all to come back on January 19th for that, and I will not prolong our time, but thank you all so much for being here. If you have any questions or anything that you need, please don't hesitate to reach out. And let me go on pause really quick. So yes, as always, thank you all so much for joining us, and we will look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you all.
Have a
Thank
good week, and
you.
I enjoyed what pieces I could pick up today.